All right, how's everybody doing out there today? This is Goldpilled here with the Goldpilled stream, and this video is going to be mainly about the attention span of the current U.S. populace and how it's about as long as a goldfish's attention span, and how so many of the sheep, NPCs, whatever you want to call them out there, they just forget. They forget the propaganda that they're subjected to after a month, maybe even less. Some may be a little longer. And they just forget about it. And they just continue the process of buying into the beast system. All the propaganda give it to them. They just continue to gobble it up and completely forget, about the past propaganda that usually completely contradicts their new stuff. Um, I like to think of it as your brain is being a computer, and the propaganda that they're giving you is like firmware updates. So if they want you to think a certain way, or they want you to change your thinking in like a different direction, well, through the media propaganda, they send out a firmware update, and it's designed to have that effect. It updates your brain's firmware and sets you on a new path of thinking, um, usually to serve their own ends. And for the sheep and the NPCs out there, um, that propaganda firmware updating, it works. It's hugely successful. Um, that's how so many people just forget the past so quickly. And so that's kind of going to be what this video is about here today. And it's going to be related to IIA operations and how we're, living in the post-truth world. So, pretty much everything that they tell us is a lie. And everything of that nature, it's all intertwined. So I got one video clip, and then we're going to go over and have commentary on another video. So let's go do that. And the first video is a Jimmy Dore clip it. Now, I'm not a fan of Jimmy Dore. I'll catch certain clips of his if Data Dumper posts them on BitChute, and he did post this one. But I found this clip interesting because I've never trusted Jimmy Dore. I always seen him as serving the agenda in some way, whether he's an IIA operative, an agent, or he's just a useful idiot whose viewpoints happen to coincide with the agenda. So he's pushed out there, permitted to be out there, elevated in status, to be out there, and maybe even mystery checks to continue what he's doing. But I found the opening of this here very interesting, because if you're not aware, old Jimmy Dore, I really had no respect for him up until he got vaccinated. And he's more of a lefty libtard, whatever. And so he went and got vaccinated. Well, apparently he had adverse reactions. It messed him up pretty good, according to him. And now he's all woke and about truth now because it affected him firsthand. Well, after that, he started kind of speaking up, and saying a little bit of truth. And he got a little bit of respect from me for that. But I still never really watched the guy, and I still don't take what he says with, a whole lot of weight. So, but this clip here, this just suggests that old Jimmy is just an IIA operation. And, he's serving the system in his own way. So let's start playing this, and I'll point out what I mean.
So guess what? They finally are releasing some of the data on the vaccines. So this person says, holy shit, Pfizer and the FDA were forced to release the data by a federal judge. The list of adverse reactions of note is frankly breathtaking. They knew Pfizer's data submitted to the FDA contains 8 pages of known side effects, single spaced too, by the way. So you know that I had a reaction. I had an adverse reaction when I got vaccine, and I was put in a study. I had horrible joint pain, exhaustion, migraines, neck pain, all kinds of things went wrong with me, and they wouldn't stop, right? And so I got put in a study, and they gave me all these experimental drugs to see if they would work, and luckily they did. So that made me start looking into things surrounding the COVID narrative coming from the establishment, and everything I looked at, they ended up lying about. They were lying about masks. They were lying about herd immunity. They were lying about gain of function. They were lying about funding gain of function. They were lying about the origins of the virus. They were lying about the people who came up with the Great Barrington Declaration, which was an alternative to lockdowns. They lied and smeared them. They lied. Everything I looked at, they were lying. They're lying about ivermectin. They said it was horse paste. It's a Nobel Prize winning medicine, human medicine. They were lying about everything.
All right. So there's old Jimmy, he's woke up now, huh? He sees everything clearly now. Well, I will point out that all those lies he calls out there, since this video is on YouTube, and YouTube frowns upon their medical misinformation, all those lies he points out, they are verifiable and backed up with factual data. So they can all be proven. They did lie to us. Now, the main part of this video here is where he speaks about the shot. It screwed them all up. Okay, so this is the red flag that I see. He took an experimental vaccine, not knowing, what it would do to him, whatever. It screwed him up pretty bad. So what does he do about it? He voluntarily enters into an experimental study, after taking the vaccine. And in this experimental study, they gave him all kinds of experimental drugs to help alleviate the damage caused by the vaccine. And luckily, those experimental drugs, they worked. So Jimmy's all better now. That's a load of BS to me. I wonder if anybody else sees it that way. This to me, this is just the controlled demolition of the C-19 narrative. The whole C-19 narrative, it began crumbling, and they controlled that crumble. Now, did the narrative start crumbling organically? Or were they completely behind the narrative crumbling? Did they initiate the narrative crumbling, in the truth community and, flowing out into the mainstream? I don't know. But they were definitely controlling the narrative crumbling in a way that was beneficial to them. They control it, and they can make it less damaging, on themselves by controlling it. And I believe with, like I said, we went over on the Rogan video with a lot of the popular doctors that made all the alt media rounds. I believe a lot of them were serving the agenda, and they were brought out to start the controlled narrative crumbling. They are in on it. Malone, completely suspect. Don't trust a guy. Zelenko, completely suspect. Don't trust a guy. So why were these, few doctors just trotted around everywhere to crumble the narrative? It's likely because they were behind, it crumbling. And Jimmy Dore here is just another part of that. Um, he's pretty much a lefty pud before, and then he supposedly got the vaccine, and now he's a voice of reason and a voice of truth, and he's bridging the left-right, divide. And think of the impact that has on people's, minds. Like, yeah, Jimmy's out there, fighting for us now, and blah blah blah. Well, that could be a whole BS story, and it very much looks like it was, because old Jimmy that was damaged by an experimental vaccine, well, he obviously volunteered to go into an experimental study to try to, you know, get rid of the effects of it. And what did he take in the study? A whole bunch of experimental, drugs, more experimental drugs. You know, it was an experimental drug that damaged him. And what's he do? He goes out and takes more experimental drugs to try to make him better. That makes absolutely no sense. And just luckily those experimental drugs worked. So now he's better. BS. This is all just the post-truth world. They, inundate you with an overwhelming amount of information, and it just causes confusion. It keeps you complacent. It has you down rabbit holes. This, I would probably estimate that probably pushing 90% of the truth community that's, permitted online now is all controlled. Whatever information they're putting out is allowed, and they want that out there to steer your mind, to give you those firmware updates, to change, the programming of your mind. And that's all Jimmy is here. What intelligent person, would take an experimental drug like the C19 jab, in the first place. And then let's say you did take that experimental drug and it damaged you pretty bad. The last thing that you would do, being an intelligent individual, would be sign up for an experimental study and let them pump you full of more experimental drugs, thinking that's going to make you better. A smart, intelligent individual would probably be looking for alternative treatments, and probably detoxifying treatments of a more holistic nature. But no, the propaganda they want out there is, yes, the experimental drug damaged him, but it's really rare. And don't worry, we have plenty of more experimental drugs that'll get you back on track, get you back to new. So, this, I don't, that little sliver of respect that I got from Jimmy when he started speaking out about the vax, that's gone now, because this clip here, his whole show is just BS, and it's all IIA in my opinion. And when I call stuff IIA, I don't necessarily mean that they are directly IIA operatives or they're directly intelligence operatives. It's more of a broader context where they're serving the IIA agenda in some way, whether that means they are a direct operative or maybe they're just a useful idiot, but they're serving the Interactive Internet Activities Operation Agenda. So when I say, Jimmy's just more IIA, it's his show and him. He's serving the agenda of IIA. So remember that if I refer to anybody else in the future as IIA. Okay, so let's move on from here. I had enough of Jimmy. So this video that we're going to critique, we'll claim it under fair use. I'm going to pause and do commentary on it. Is Really Graceful. I don't know how many people is familiar with Really Graceful, but she still puts a video up now and again on YouTube. And this video, she wouldn't put on YouTube. She put a primer that said, good video to watch, but it can't be posted here. So she put it up on BitChute. Well, we're going to go over it, fair use here, and give commentary and critique to it. And it's going to go on YouTube. We'll see how it does. My channel's not that big. I barely have an audience. So we'll see if this gets permitted, or we'll see if I end up with my first strike. But it's this is about the attention span that I mentioned previously, and how people just forget. They forget everything, that's happened to them, sometimes very quickly, in a matter of weeks or a month. And this relates to the current situation we're in, which is that of possible World War III and fear for your lives, and Putin's the enemy and he's the big bad boogeyman, and all of our problems are because of Russia and Putin. And that's the whole wag the dog scenario. And all they had to do was send out a firmware update and look at all the NPCs and sheep that just changed on a dime with that firmware update. Forget about C-19, forget about all the damage done from that, and just go right in we hate Russia and Putin and World War III possibility. And that's done with a simple mainstream media firmware update. Just like that. That's how easy it is to control people's minds. And in my previous video, we've seen with the World Economic Forum, and how they're saying that your own free will and decision making, that's over. So this here is showing you how they can control people's behavior. Now, it's not everybody out there. Like their tactics and techniques, they don't work on me. They really never have. But for many people out there, the people that I call NPCs, the people that I call sheep, they work brilliantly. Their tactics and techniques and the firmware updates, they work like a charm. And it's sad. It's sad to see people out there, so low IQ and so unintelligent that, these techniques and firmware updates work on. It's sad to see your fellow humans, at such a low level of intelligence, low level of spirituality, just digressing, Instead of progressing, they're just degressing. So let's start this video, and then I'll pause it and add commentary here or there, and we'll see how it goes. So let me mute up and we'll start.
The last 2 years. They'll distract us with the next big crisis, but each of us has the responsibility to remember the past, or I'm afraid we'll be doomed to repeat it. So will you remember?
infected people got a respiratory illness with symptoms ranging from mild flu-like signs to severe pneumonia. The sickest required intensive care. Many died.
Okay, so right there at the beginning, you remember all the military games they had there in Wuhan? Right before this broke out. And they also ran the 201 scenario with coronavirus sweeping the globe. And pretty much everything that happened in that war game, you could call it, is kind of how their whole C-19 narrative panned out, And they knew a lot of things based on that simulation they did. And certain things they ignored, like the early treatment and stuff. So they knew how this whole thing was going to pan out. And then by knowing it, they could make little changes here and there and steer it to, better fit what they wanted to do. And, it just so happened they did that right before, a real pandemic supposedly started. And all those war games happened to be right in Wuhan, China, where supposedly this whole thing originated from. And if you have any research in the truth and truth or topics, you'll know that when they run simulations in war games like this, there's a very high percentage that exact scenario that they're simulating, it ends up happening supposedly in real life pretty much directly after they run these simulations. It's a recurring trend, and it's almost like these simulations that they're running, they just take them live then, live being taking them out into the real world. It's a recurring trend. If you're versed in the truth community at all over the past several years. So remember that. You see them running simulations like that, just expect it to most likely go live within a short period of time. And then, does anyone remember all the CEOs stepping down in droves? I remember that. In the truth community, we were, everyone was talking about, like, why are all these CEOs stepping down? Like, that's odd. What are they, what's going to go on? There's something coming that, they're doing this. And then, the C-19 breaks out. But, the C-19 is such, hot topic news that everybody just completely forgets about these CEOs stepping down. So that's why. That's why they were all stepping down. Because they knew what was coming. Let's continue.
The complaint alleges that Dr. Lieber signed a contract with the Chinese university in Wuhan and was paid up to $50,000 per month, plus up to $158,000 in living expenses.
The chair of Harvard's chemistry department, he also allegedly received more than $1.5 million to set up a research lab in China, all while working at Harvard and receiving multiple research grants from the U.S. Department of Defense and National Institutes of Health.
So that right there is a little suspicious. I'm not sure what to make of it. But those Chinese nationals were arrested trying to smuggle out vials of biological research connected in Harvard there. And then that Harvard guy was given all that money to set up, fund research in Wuhan. Well, so I'm not sure what to make of that, but what were they trying to smuggle out? Were they trying to get a sample, of this modified C-19 over to China so they could initiate this C-19 outbreak? Because, they couldn't legally do it, in a legal sense, of giving them a sample. Maybe they had to, get it out illegally. I'm not sure. Or was there just some kind of misdirection scenario with that. So I don't know what to think of that, but that's an interesting piece of information. And they're starting here in the early outbreak, in China, but before it made it to our shores, the videos of people dropping dead in the streets, forced quarantines, express hospital building, hits the internet. And I remember this. People walking around in what looked like hazmat suits, spraying like a fogger on the streets, welding people's doors shut to keep them in, just people laying in the street like they dropped dead, like there was some kind of, fast-acting contagion, that once you caught it, within 10 minutes, you're convulsing and dying on the street. That's the way they made it look when it first came out in China. And it was televised all over our media here. And that was the big fear porn. That was to scare the shit out of everybody and get them so fearful that, oh my God, if this comes here, we're screwed. They were priming. They were just priming the populace, getting them ready, really invoking that fear. So let's watch some clips of that.
It is not clear where or when precisely much of the footage was taken, though all of it appears to come from China. While the disease is mostly confined to China, isolated cases have been reported in Vietnam, South Korea, Thailand, Taiwan, Singapore, Hong Kong, Macau and Japan.
So all them videos coming from China there to scare the crap out of everybody. I would imagine that the majority of those videos were all faked. They were all, acting. They were made with the intentional purpose of giving to the American public to scare them. There's so many instances that they just fake these videos that they put out to control people's emotions. And I would bet all the ones in China are pretty much all fake because, after it came to our shores, like you've seen here, we just started, to slow the spread so it made its way to our shores. Everyone just forgot about China then. The whole, people dropping dead in the streets. Well, once they brought it here, and got everybody super scared, that we got to worry about it. Everyone forgot about China, and they went back to normal. There was no more dropping dead in the streets. There was no more spraying fogger around the cities. There was no more welding people's doors shut. All that ceased because they gave a firmware update, and it was, oh, you need to worry about the home country now. It's here. We need to handle it here. And the whole China narrative was just gone. Forgotten about, gone. And it's like it never happened. That's the attention span and the firmware updates they give people. They can change it on a dime, and the sheep and the NPCs just go right along with it.
This is for real. This is real. This is right here in Brooklyn. This is right at Brooklyn Hospital. Y'all, this is for real. They put the bodies in 18-wheeler, y'all. Please, y'all stay inside. This is real, y'all. This is coming right down. I'm right here now, right here outside the hospital.
I'll point something out with that little video loading bodies in there. I would almost bet that whole thing was a stunt. And they probably paid that gentleman, they probably gave him a 20. Or maybe they were generous and slipped him a Benjamin to film that video for him. Oh, look right here, everyone. Oh, they loading bodies in the back of the 18-wheelers, y'all. This is legit. Oh, that's all they need is an acting stunt like that. Nope, everyone's afraid. People are dying. There's so many dead people. We gotta load them up in the back of a box truck with a forklift. And it's happening right here, right in downtown Brooklyn. It's just post-truth world, folks. Just remember, post-truth world, and everything that they give you is just an attempt at a firmware update of your mind. Right there is probably a fake headline. Yeah, they offered inmates $6 an hour to dig mass graves because so many people dying of COVID. BS. I would bet money that's just a fake headline. And look what they're doing to the children there, trying to play a saxophone with a mask over it. What they did to children is child abuse, and there are so many people that should be held criminally responsible. And who hasn't forgot the dancing nurses on TikTok? The whole reason behind that stunt was to get people supporting the healthcare workers. There was a big firmware update sent out to get everybody supporting the healthcare workers. They're like the military. They're on the front lines serving you. So respect them, respect the doctors, and anything they say, you should just take it as absolute truth and do not question them. That was the motive behind the whole dancing nurses and stuff. Boosting the morale, having you not question the authority, not question the healthcare system, because they're out there, they know what's going on, and they know what's good for you. So and it worked beautifully. There were banners hanging everywhere. We support our frontline workers. Healthcare workers are heroes. This and that. Everyone got behind that. It was ridiculous. And I'm sorry, but anyone that is seemingly in a position of authority, you should not have blind trust to. That's being intelligent and awake 101. You question everything, especially people that you're told to trust unquestioningly. Those are the ones you need to question the most. And that's the firmware updates. The people's brains have been programmed that you blindly trust authority. Well, if you're one of them, break that habit. Question everybody. Question your doctor. Question anybody in a position of authority or power, because rarely do they have your best interest at hand. In this little clip here, like I said, post-truth world, everything they're putting out is propaganda and pretty much PR stunts, and it's like a Hollywood production. These videos they put out, they actually have a production team behind it with actors. And this one here, these sick people in their hospital beds, they're mannequins. They're dummies laying there. This whole thing was faked, and they got called out, and there was a retraction or article issued about they're sorry they used mannequins. It'll be shown here, but how many people see that? The correction. Not a lot. Most people see this, and it gives them that firmware update. And in case you can't read the bottom there, the big title, child lost to COVID-19. And then the last paragraph. However, it was revealed that coronavirus was not the reason for either his hospital admission or death. So why would you put a title like that? That's straight lying to people, because most people only read the headline. So they see child lost to COVID-19, that triggers their emotional reaction of, oh, how sad, the kids are dying. And in a way, that's a little tiny firmware update. And I want to point out here, look, they're using the same picture. This was from a gas leak that caused people to get sick. So they're sitting there sick, nauseous, fuzzy, dizzy. And then they just reused, images from that incident. And they're now portraying it as, people in the streets of India dead from C-19. Complete lie. Just hijacking old imagery. And the reason I point this out and, talk about it, they're doing the exact same thing right now with the Ukraine. The Last American Vagabond just had a video the other day where he pointed out there were like 3 people supposedly laying dead on a street corner, and it was from a rocket blast that came down, but there was no sign of a rocket impact. There was no debris anywhere. There was really no blood on the people. They were all whole. There was just a minimal amount of blood on their faces. And there was just no evidence that a rocket had hit and killed these people. It just looked like BS. And then there was a completely separate article that was portraying something else of, people dead. And it was on the exact same street corner as the other one. But the people in the picture were different people. They weren't the same people in both pictures. They were completely different actors. But they used the exact same street corner to do the production, to do the PR stunt. They used the exact same street corner, and they have different actors in each one. And, each picture they used was, a different scenario, or, a different, whatever they wanted to push. The first one was a rocket blast, killed like 3 people. And the other one, I forget what it was, but it was the exact same street corner they used. That's how bad their propaganda is in their, Hollywood production, PR stunts. They'll use, old images like this one. They don't care that, this image was used because it was a gas attack. They'll just take it, change the story, complete lie, and put it out to you as something else. Or they'll just use the same production site for multiple stories that aren't related, like that one there, using the exact same street corner with 2 different scenarios. So you got to be aware of this, people. You got to be thinking higher. And at this point, I'm at the level where anything I see, I just take with a grain of salt. Like, I don't take anything I see as absolute truth until there's some way I can absolutely prove it. So when I see a video from Ukraine or about C-19, or I see a news headline about C-19 or Ukraine, it don't matter if it's from mainstream media, if it's from alternative media, if it's from the truth community. It don't matter where that information's coming from. I just take it with a grain of salt, as that could possibly be fake, and that could possibly be not real. Because like I said, this is post-truth world. And they've even admitted to this being the post-truth world. And what that means is pretty much everything that you're given in the media and the propaganda, it's all lies. There is no truth to it. So you need to start thinking in that way. You need to start being actively aware 24/7 in real time that every piece of information you are consuming that is coming from the beast system is likely a lie. And if you can get to that level to where your thinking is like that 24/7, you will almost be gold pilled level, because you will see things so clearly once you realize that just about everything you're given is likely a lie, and it's just used to steer you in a certain direction and play on your emotions. And what they are is attempted firmware updates. And if you can get to gold pill level, those firmware updates don't work. They're blocked. You got a firewall up, and they don't get through. You write your own programming when you're on gold pill level. So let's continue on here. And given that these are Asian children, I would almost bet that whatever picture or video this was pulled out of was probably just a PR stunt, and they don't actually have kids there in cubes. This was done to push a narrative, and it was a PR production.
Protest 6 months ago.
To ask if you have been.
Yeah.
So that whole George Floyd thing, that was an interesting twist to the plot. Right in the middle of the pandemic, the whole George Floyd incident unfolded, and rioting in the streets and mass gatherings and burning down cities, and or stores, I should say, not cities, burning down stores and this and that. And it was all completely permissible. Don't worry about the C-19 that supposedly spreads like wildfire. But you can go out and protest and burn down advanced autos and Dunkin' Donuts and whatever. That's fine. But what that was there was a kind of an icing on the cake. They got everybody under the C-19 narrative control, and now they're going to throw out race relations and just further divide the American people. You had the division between the people not buying the C-19 narrative and the ones that were. Well, now on top of that, you're going to divide everybody by race now and start a little mini race war right in the middle of everything. And it's so obvious that everything they're doing is just to destroy the American cohesion. We never fully had cohesion in America. It's mostly because of them, the controllers. They've always instigated a divide. But whatever we might have had prior to this, they're just eroding it even more. They want this division. They want this racial division. They want everybody fighting with each other. They want split communities. That way people aren't looking at the real problem. Them, the controllers. And it also furthers the breakdown of America, because I think they want to split America up into like blocks, with sections probably separating from each other. And how are they going to do that? If people are united, they would need people divided. So that whole race, mini race war with George Floyd, that was just another clever tactic of achieving their end goal agenda. And this here is where other countries go into stricter lockdowns than what we had. And it's just this one person talking about he went to a protest somewhere and cops were at his house a couple weeks later, and he was complaining because there was a Black Lives Matter protest like a week before his protest, and they're not out, looking at any of the Black Lives Matter, protesters. They're only following up on the ones that are protesting the lockdown. So that just shows how selective they are, and what they allow and what's permitted. And the whole Black Lives Matter is permitted, which I didn't also touch on with the George Floyd, but that's where BLM, Black Lives Matter, really got a huge undertaking because of that incident. And if you've seen the leaders of Black Lives Matter, they're trained Marxists, and they took everybody's money and went and bought $1 million houses, multiple ones, and just dipped. So they fleeced everybody to fund the BLM, and the BLM is just another Marxist subversion group, set to divide America. And that whole plan, the whole George Floyd PR stunt, it panned out beautifully, pretty much. It served the agenda they wanted, and it worked. And like I said, with all the money they raised, when they do this stuff and get everybody to support it financially, all they're doing is fleecing people, fleecing the populace even more. There's a lot of people in America that don't have much, but, they might donate, to a cause that they feel is beneficial to them. And in probably most cases, they're just throwing their money away because they're giving it to the beast system, who's pretty much duping them out of their money. So I call it the fleecing of America. If you get caught up giving money to pretty much any cause, you're just being fleeced, because all these causes most all of them are BS. So let's continue, and I'm probably going to skip through this guy just complaining with cops.
Who gives a fuck? How illegal is that? Which part? Going to a protest. Why are you... What's this? Oh, I won't...
So all that PR stunts with, the people, approached by cops and, being demonized, whatever, that was the purpose. They wanted to demonize the, anti-mandate, mask, people not buying the C-19 narrative. That whole PR area, it was designed to demonize them. To get people, mad and angry at them, that they're, a threat, they're a threat to other people's health. So everyone gets angry, and, you have the weight of the crowd coming against you now, because you're out of line. And that's what that was, to demonize the anti-mandate people and, further cause further divide the communities, And then here it's going to go into Trump announcing the warp speed, and the Democrats were the original anti-jabbers. And everybody forgot about that.
I think it's going to be a very skeptical American public about taking the vaccine, and they should be.
We can't trust the president and take his word and take a vaccine that might cause harm to us.
If and when the vaccine comes, it's not likely to go through all the tests that needs to be and the trials that are needed to be done.
Let's just say there's a vaccine that is approved and even distributed before the election. Would you get it?
Well, I think that's going to be an issue for all of us.
So that whole incident with them not wanting to, take Trump's vaccine because he created it, that was just, to cause more division and, to garner trust in a way. Because, all the people who just love Trump, all the Trump-tards out there, they see that story out there that, Trump's trying to create a vaccine, to help save us. And all the Democrats are poo-pooing on it, not trusting him. Well, that makes people double down and, trust, their authority figure even more, because all the Democrats, hate him and they're against it and they don't trust him. So I'm going to double down and I'm going to trust Trump even more. So it works in that way. And it, unites the Democrats, together of, we don't trust that Trump, so they come together with, more trust of the Democrats, and then you also have the division that it creates. So the propaganda that they put out there, it works all angles. Like, there's not just one angle that they try to achieve with propaganda. It's a multifaceted angles that their propaganda achieves, and all those angles just serve their end. Now, going into here, does anyone remember the record profits that the billionaires were making right in the beginning? I think like the top 5 billionaires or something almost like doubled their wealth, right off the bat. It was ridiculous. And then it ended up being the single biggest wealth transfer. Yep, the fleecing of America, folks.
Free fries when you get vaccinated? I got vaccinated. You're saying I could get this? These delicious fries? Wait a minute. But there's also a burger element to this? Let me check with Bill Neathart. Is it too early in the day to eat a burger? No. This could be breakfast? Okay. I want you to look at this and think about, again, some people love hamburgers, some don't. Really want to respect all ways of life. But if this is appealing to you, just think of this when you think of vaccination. Vaccination.
Okay, I'm sorry, but that PR stunt right there with de Blasio and the hamburger and fries, if propaganda like that is able to successfully have an effect on you, you are dumb. I'm sorry. You are probably so low IQ that you might be clinically retarded. That was the worst piece of pro-jab propaganda that I've seen probably during this whole pandemic thingy. That him munching on fries and the burger and just the way he talks, which he's so out of touch with the common man because he's a rich elite You know, he absolutely does not understand what the common person goes through and what common person life is like and what living in poverty is like. He's just so out of touch, and he thinks that bribing you with a burger and fries is going to get you to get a vaccination. And like I said, if that propaganda works on you, you're lost. There's no hope for you. Like I said, I'm sorry to be so blunt with certain things, but like, I'm not here to beat around the bush, and I'm not here to pander to anybody. You know, I'm going to speak the truth as I see it, and if that hurts your feelings, if it stirs your emotions, if it triggers you, so to say, well, I can't help that. You need to work on yourself if you get triggered by anything I say. So let's continue with the bribery here. Free Krispy Kreme donuts. 2 of them if you got a vax. So not just 1, 2. Processed sugar that'll just weaken your immune system and make you sicker. So that whole turning on the unvaccinated, that was sickening in my eyes. The way they demonized the unvaxxed and had everybody turn against them. It was almost as bad as them giving everyone the firmware update after 911 and everyone hating the Middle Eastern folk. Everyone hated Arabs. Anyone slightly Arab looking, Middle Eastern, everyone hated them after 911. And that's what they did to the unvaccinated here. Not quite on the scale, or, what do I want to say? Well, not quite on the scale as, hating the Middle Easterns. But it was pretty bad. There were a lot of people really angry with the unvaccinated. And you can see it right now. It's going on right now currently. Everyone hates Russians now. Simple firmware update put out into the system. Now everyone's anti-Russian. They're boycotting Russian restaurants, dumping out Russian products, boycotting Russian products. There was even this one Russian restaurant. The owner was getting death threats, on his voicemails, just because his restaurant was named like Russian restaurant was the name of it. It had Russian in the name. People were giving him death threats. And the guy isn't even Russian. He's Armenian. And that's how dumb people are. They get that firmware update and they just go with their programming. People are being programmed to hate Russia now. And it's working beautifully. Just like hating Middle Easterns and Arabs worked beautifully after 9/11. Just like hating the unvaccinated worked beautifully. Does anybody see the recurring script of this world theater? It plays over and over and over, just on a loop. They have the same techniques, the same problem, reaction, solution. They just play it on loop. And they've been doing this for decades, centuries. And the people fall for it every time. And the loops they run, they could be short loops, a matter of a month, 2 months. And it still works. The NPCs, the sheep, they forget the previous loop, and they hop right on the next loop, no matter the time in between. That is how low IQ our society is becoming. That they have people pretty much brainwashed from birth to obey the system, to change their thinking when needed with firmware updates. You know, they have the control of the minds of men down pat. Like, they have it down. They know how to do it. They're pretty much masters at it now. And, there's always going to be, the small percentage out there that their techniques and tactics, they don't work on. But for the vast majority, it works perfectly. And that's how they're able to do what they're currently doing. And they're going to continue to do what they're doing until they get whatever end goal agendas they're seeking. They're likely going to get them. Because, majority of people, they're beyond the realm of waking up. They're beyond the realm of reaching gold pill level, in order to see what's really going on here and be able to see that they're in a post-truth world where nothing they're given is real or truthful. And, they're also in, the new digital enslavement world where this technology is, not a benefit to them. It's being used against them. And, they can control the way you think to pretty much any direction. All they just have to do is employ, certain propaganda through the certain outlets, and the firmware update will take hold. They're masters at it. And I brought it back here because I wanted to see if there was a date on this. The 12-year-old gets COVID vaccine as birthday gift. And I wanted to see what the date was, because it wasn't even allowed to be given to 12-year-olds, until a certain date. So it doesn't say. So I was wondering if, somehow he got it before they were even permitting it for kids. Because there's crazy people out there that, got their kids, jabbed, and they weren't even of age, or in the age range that, the controllers sanction. Which, it doesn't matter what the controllers say about age. No one should probably be getting it. But, people are even defying authority, that they're trained to, trust blindly. They're defying them, to get their child jabbed just because the fear is so great. Fear is one of the biggest drivers of any living organism, or I should say mammal. Any living thing that has, intelligence. Fear is probably one of the biggest drivers of their, daily lives. So, they play on your fear. They can make you do a lot of things. And that could be injecting poison into your child. So, let's get back to... It looks like she wants to do a part 2 about the vax. Let's see how it ends here.
They want you to forget.
Well, it looks like that's it. So, yeah, that was that. That was all the things they want you to forget. And likely, a majority of people, they are going to forget all that stuff. And they've probably already have forgotten it all. It's probably a matter of months after what each of those incidents in there happened that the people forgot about it already and just went on to the next shiny object that's dangled in front of their face. And currently, the whole World War III, Russia, Ukraine, that's just the next step in the agenda. That's the new shiny thing that you're told to concentrate on. And when they do that, when they give you the new shiny thing, they want you to forget about the old shiny thing. And people are just going to, mostly forget about, 2.5, pushing 3 years of COVID tyranny, C-19 mandates, pretty much destroying our economy, destroying the worldwide economy. And just like that, Russia-Ukraine firmware update, and it's like it never happened. And, nobody's, going to push the subject because the only thing you can see now in mainstream media is the new shiny object. So that's what people go with, and they don't look into the past then anymore. And, like I said, this whole, Russia and Putin demonizing, everyone hates Russia now, boycotting their stuff, blah, blah. Putin's the boogeyman, the bad guy. Well, now they're blaming the whole C-19, mandates, everything they did under C-19, they're now blaming on Russia and using that as a mechanism to turn people, against Russia. And I'm sorry, but the state of our economy right now, and, all the price and the hyperinflation and all that, the current state is not because of Russia invading Ukraine and us putting sanctions on Russia. That's not why our economy is where it is right now. Our economy is where it is right now, largely because of the 2.5, pushing 3 years of C-19 destruction. That's why we're at where we're at right now. And this whole wag the dog, new shiny object, that's just distracting and taking people down a different path. And now everything is Russia's fault. Everything is Putin's fault. Oh, we had to put sanctions on them, so that's why our economy's in the shitter. It's not the reality. They ruined the economy and now they're hiding it, with a new shiny object. So I'm just so upset that more people can't see this. It's so obvious. Like, you barely hear, a word uttered about C-19 anymore. It's just, it's all Russia and possible World War III now, and Putin's the boogeyman, and the humanitarian crisis in Ukraine. But everyone has completely forgotten about the humanitarian crisis in Syria, that the U.S. is currently still doing, or the humanitarian crisis in Yemen that the U.S. is still behind supporting and involved with pretty intimately, with Saudi Arabia. No one cares about our invasion of foreign countries for no apparent reason. But be damned if Putin does it, So that's how it's just a PR stunt. It's just another PR stunt. And it's just, it's just the next act of the next act on the stage of the world theater. So remember that. The whole world, it's one big world theater. And everything they give and show you are just acts. Acts on the stage. All theater. And they just go from Act 1 to Act 2 to Act 3 to Act 4. And people follow right along with it. And it's all post-truth. It's all to steer your mind and emotions and put you in a certain state. And it's working brilliantly. I don't know how much longer we're going to be able to hold out until they really bring the hammer down of enslavement. But I don't think there's much time left. The people, the children that are being born now, the current children, they're born into the digital age. They will never know an age outside of the digital realm. They will never have the experiences of being young and having no computers, cell phones, technology like I did. All they're going to know is digital enslavement. And so, like I said, I don't think there's much time left, because as the older generations continue to die off, there's going to be, really no pushback to this digital enslavement, And I think part of the C-19 agenda was to get rid of a large chunk of the older generation. And I think it was very successful in doing so. If you were aware of the nursing home incidents, a lot of older people passed during C-19. And to me, it looked like it was mostly all intentional. So they're in the process of, getting rid of, the last bastions of the old way, so to say. And, they're going to have their perfect, to go back to my last video here, they're going to have, whole generations of intelligently designed children. Not intelligently designed from our creator, but intelligently designed from psychopaths and the controllers of this beast system. And they're going to be under their thumb from birth till death, serving the system. So we don't have much time, folks. You need to realize what's going on here. You need to realize how practically everything that you're given is a lie, or not quite fully truthful, and it's used to make you think a certain way, to stir your emotions in a certain way, and to, program you, consciously program you and subconsciously program you. I'm sure a lot of these techniques they use, they play on you at a subconscious level, so you don't even know you're being firmware updated, but you're being firmware updated, in a way. And I'm not, I say, their techniques don't work on me. Well, for the most part, that's largely true. But I don't know what they're doing, that could be affecting me subconsciously. There might be a lot of things out there that I view, or content I, take in, that, does have a subconscious effect on me, and I'm not aware of. And I wouldn't be aware of it because it's, meant to be, taken in subconsciously. So, no one is immune. So, everyone start thinking higher out there. Find the gold pill. We need to find the gold pill. So I wish you luck. Everyone take care. I am out. Peace.